subject had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. Is the sound better if I get it really close to my face?
Yeah.
It's less echoey?
Yeah.
Reverb? All right. Well, I'll try. I can only do what I can do. All right. So yesterday was like a crappy day.
Yeah, kind of.
I was not impressed by the news conference that they did for the J6 pipe bomber. Not impressed by that at all. That was a big fat thank you. We found him. Thank you. We all work together. We're such a great team. Don't ever take any of our power away. We're great. We finally redirected all this great power you've given us.
Thanks for the summary, Taylor. I missed it. Whew.
It was horrible. I was like, Now they just arrested the guy. He gets arraigned today. So today's when they like read out the charges. We do know the charges, but they'll like read them and kind of just, they'll read through the complaint form. I'm not impressed, man. So we'll talk about it as we get into the show. I'm not saying that he's not involved in the pipe bomb. I'm not saying he's not the pipe bomber. I'm just saying, really? Really? I mean, it's barely convincing. What do we have going on over in the chats? Get people rolling in.
Oh, there we go.
Good morning, John Atakis, Frazier. Nice day in Boise. Pony Boy, good morning. Carlites. Hey, good morning, y'all. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so let's go over a couple things here. I think it was Tuesday. Donald Trump had a cabinet meeting.
Yeah, it's either Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, big cabinet meeting. Anyways, he said this at the end of the cabinet meeting as he was being asked about Ilhan Omar and the Somalis. And, he got a little bit of as close to a standing ovation as you can get in the White House.
And they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%.
Sarah Sings, welcome, Sarah.
They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you. Okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country is no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. Our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. They came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you.
He's like, let's get him out of here. You'd have to go back to like pre-Civil War to hear a president talk like that. They're garbage. Biden called Trump supporters garbage. Trump calls Somalians garbage. It's pretty interesting. I'll tell you what, if you're not involved politically, if you're not dedicated to vote in the midterms, you need to get your head straight, because if Trump gets impeached or whatever, life is going to get really hard for a lot of Americans.
It'll be East Berlin.
It's
the whole country.
Gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. Yesterday they brought in. Oh, so before I get to this is really funny. So Frey, do you know who Mayor Frey is? Jacob Frey in Minnesota. So he's the mayor of Minneapolis, and he's one of these guys during 2020. You know, he totally just bent the knee big time. So obviously, you know, Trump's got this little campaign against the Somalis. And so yesterday, this is a video of him going to a Somalian restaurant, eating food. Look at his face. This is like a Gavin Newsom piece. This guy's holding on for dear life. This food is not good. Look at him.
Oh,
look,
yeah,
he's like, oh yeah, I love it.
That's really good.
Garbage beans, man. And look, they're at like some nice restaurant, political guys all happy. They're eating in paper bowls. Don't worry, it's $29.98 a plate right there at that Somali restaurant. Anyway, just seeing Jacob Fry holding on for dear life. Oh, this is great. Yeah. No more. No, I don't want to take any from your family. I don't want any more food. We used to do that in Brazil, right? Like if the food wasn't good.
I'm laughing.
Yeah. In Brazil, so I went there on a mission, right? For people who don't know. And you eat in people's houses. Yeah. And they tell you, you know, these people are really poor. So like, you know, if they offer you food, decide if you really should accept it. And if you do, don't overeat. Right. Because a lot of times that's, you know, they're going to eat what's left over. Right. And I did see that many, many times. We would come in to eat and the family would literally sit there and watch us two missionaries eat. And we'd be like, oh, they're going to eat when we leave what's left. Like they're going to let us eat as much as we want and just eat what's left over. So, you know, you take a real small portion and the whole thing. Anyway,
you figure it out pretty quick.
That's what that reminded me, you know, and the excuse was, oh no, we want to leave some for you guys.
That's why I was laughing because I knew the joke.
This liver's not very good. You know, yeah, we want to leave all of this for your kids, you know. Grand jury declines to indict New York General Letitia James less than 2 weeks after the first case was dismissed. So as you guys know, Letitia James and James Comey were both indicted, and then the case was dismissed on essentially a technicality based on Lindsey Halligan's appointment. Mm-hmm. So they brought in a prosecutor from Missouri, put him in front of a grand jury, and he failed to get an indictment for Letitia James. So they're going to try again. They've got kind of like a third bite at the apple on this thing. So they will proceed. But when I saw this, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, this is prima facie mortgage fraud. To me, it doesn't seem like it would be that hard, which does call into question, you know, how rigged are these grand juries? Mm-hmm. I mean, juries can be rigged. They use something called the wheel. A lot of people don't know about this, but the wheel is...
It sounds like it was developed in the 1700s.
No, the wheel is basically, you know, I don't know how it started, but the idea is this is how you get your jury pool, right? You've got a rotating, you know, pool of people and you just draw these random names. Well, this program that was created, and I'm not sure if it's tied in with Palantir or not, but it was basically, it's an electronic jury selection pool. So this is what sends out the letters, but allegedly it already has, you know, perused your social media and kind of has your profile, your profile
using AI.
And so it knows like, oh, we need 12 liberal jurors. So let's put a pool of 48 in the jury pool and then they can pick 12. Doesn't matter which 12 we get. Right. Because you've basically,
they're all pre-selected.
I will say this. Now, the District of Columbia is very liberal. It's like votes 90% plus Democratic. But, you know, there wasn't a single juror out of the 48 or so that were interviewed that I sat in front of that watched Fox News, you know, the largest cable news network in the world. Nobody watched it. Nobody had any idea. You know, it was kind of interesting. I did get picked up in Newsweek yesterday. So, you know, they mentioned me in this article. Capitol rioters react to Brian Cole arrest on the January 6th pipe bomb. So this article just goes through, and the only significant part about this article is it quoted me and a couple of my friends. It quoted my friend Dominic Box from Savannah, Georgia, who was convicted for participating in the riot, wrote that the subject was, quote, just arrested using old evidence gathered under the Biden admin. He questioned whether Cole is a supporter of President Trump, though more details about Cole's motives have not been made public. Stating that Brian Cole was arrested in connection with the J6 pipe bomber investigation is not the same as saying he is the pipe bomber, he wrote. Words matter, and this whole story is about to get more interesting. Then it goes on to quote me, and it says, another January 6th defendant, John Strand, wrote, quoted him first. X breaking, the FBI has arrested a male subject in the J6 pipe bomber. Is the Fed's direction finally unraveling? And Taylor Jonatakis, a Washington state man who was sentenced later and pardoned for the riot, wrote on X, "It is all way too suspicious. I have a hard time believing anything about J6. The truth might be too much to reveal." Right out of Newsmax. So that's probably the 5th or 6th time I've been featured in Newsmax. So apparently they are tracking my Twitter. And this morning when I got in, my computer froze up and told me that my IP address had been used to visit websites, and I had to reset my computer. I assume it was just a virus trying to get me to buy antivirus software. I took a video of it because I was like, man, I hate it when things in my life get weird. So
me too.
If people remember back to 2021, 2022, this is Mehdi Hassan, and he's on his MSNBC at the time show. Now it's MS Now. And he is talking about the pipe bomber. And why hasn't the pipe bomber been found? And they just make a broad assumption about the pipe bomber's identity.
Jelani, you're a black man. I'm a Muslim. When you consider how black criminals and Muslim terrorists are treated, both by the legal system and by the media, and yet the January 6th pipe bomber who laid explosives in front of the RNC and DNC headquarters still walks free. We just learned today that then Vice President-elect Harris was inside the DNC when the bomb was found there. We still don't take domestic terrorism of the far-right white variety seriously in this country, do we?
No, we don't. We've seen this since the Obama administration, where they pointed out that there was this rise of white nationalist terror, and that was promptly squashed and jumped upon by the Republicans in Congress. And so great cries of outrage in response to that. And this has been what we've seen since then. Nowhere near the level of alarm that we've had around the, what was the phrase they used, Islamic terror, that they were trying to make Barack Obama say all the time.
Are you kidding me? There's not as much outrage around Islamic terror as there was J6. We didn't arrest 1,500 I'm sorry. No, that's not what happened. They came after us hard. And the idea that, the only reason they haven't found the pipe bomber is because he's black. Well, I got news for you. But before I get there, Dickle Rick 005 on my way to school, Washington State. Figured I'll drop in for the drive. Good morning, y'all. Welcome. I'm so glad you joined us. Dickle Rick 005. All right, Jake Tapper, after news broke yesterday that they had the suspect of the pipe bombs in custody, and here we have the first picture that we got of the pipe bomber right here. This is what he had to say.
Capitol attack. Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting
what? Excuse me?
What did you?
Excuse me?
What?
Excuse me. Okay, a big hint as to why we never found out who this person was and he wasn't arrested might be because he didn't fit the script. They probably wrote this script in 2021. A white man found. Nope, turns out it's a black guy.
Explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction by means of explosion. CNN observed local and federal law enforcement outside his home in Woodbridge, Virginia this morning.
And you didn't notice that he was black? And that all of his family was black?
I can't see color, Taylor.
I can't see the colors. All right. So then we go on here. So this is on CNN. And of course, they're just having a fit. They're like, well, Donald Trump would have pardoned this person anyways. Why are they wasting resources?
I do wonder if he had been actually caught around the time of January 6th and prosecuted, would he have been included in Trump's pardons?
I mean, okay, this is absolutely beyond the pale to me, to be honest, to claim that we don't know any sort of inkling of a motive of this individual when just a few months prior there was a lawsuit ruled in the Trump administration's favor against this particular individual.
Oh, yeah, there's that too. He sued the Trump administration just prior and lost.
His company seeking to let illegal immigrants out of prison on bail bonds. He purchased the supplies in
just to clarify,
very clearly.
What we're saying is that on that podium there,
you're suggesting that he's tied to January 6th insurrectionists theoretically, because
that is not at all what I'm saying.
At that time,
we are saying that Kash Patel and Pam Bondi did not provide a motive, and so you can speculate all you want, but the authorities who are charging this guy haven't laid out.
I have news for you. Motive doesn't matter when you drop off a pipe bomb.
Pretty much.
Some crimes motives matter. Did you know it was a crime? Some crimes, those are process crimes. when you drop off a pipe bomb, it's just assumed if you graduated from 3rd grade, you know better. Okay? It's just assumed. Motive actually doesn't matter here. It's did you do it or not?
About a motive. That's all I've said. The other thing is that, no, I'm not suggesting that he was tied to stop the steal, but I'm not sure why you think that would be.
Had he been discovered right after January 6th, would he have been included in the pardonings from individuals who participated?
So it's called a hypothetical. Had he been prosecuted alongside all of those other people who were involved in violent acts on January 6th, would Donald Trump have pardoned him?
No, because individuals who walked into the Capitol building on January 6th were not planting pipe bombs.
What about the DNC? But what about the ones that use the American flag?
But again, it's rich to me that now the media is saying we have no idea.
Well, they use the American flag to beat police officers because they had understaffed themselves by responding to a bogus pipe bomb, and they kind of let the crowd get out of control. And by the way, yes, there were provocateurs in the crowd. So there was a little deep dive into the identity of the pipe bomber by Travis Hawley. So this is a Twitter thread, and we're just going to scroll through it real quick. The FBI has arrested Brian Cole of Woodbridge, Virginia, for the pipe bomb incident that took place on the eve of January 6, 2021. So allegedly he posted it on 2020. So all of this stuff is OSINT. So here's some pictures of the man. The suspect arrested on January 6 pipe bomber is Brian Cole Jr. of Woodbridge. He would have been 25 or 26 at the time, 25 at the time of January 6. Now he's 30 years old. So here's some more pictures of him. Hi, Deborah. Kids are grown and working. Brittany's 28. Brian is 24. Blah, blah, blah. Me and my grandsons. So nice little family. Very, I mean, I know they look white, but I don't think they are. CNN. You might want to check real quick. So he goes through, he's identified some different email addresses that he's used, different locations, which, by the way, protect your stuff. These are all his dad's passwords, or all his passwords. Patriotism for USA, Brawny 1 Delta, Patriotism for USA, Forgotten 1 Delta, Delton 1 Forgotten, Brawny Delta, America 1. So I think these are his dad's passwords, possibly. But Brian himself had this, I am hot for cock, appears to be his username associated to his email, and Cole Brian blah 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 at Gmail, involved in the 2016 hacking of the Adult Friend Finder website and sex swingers hookup site. So here's his hookup. It looks like he was playing video games kind of in this little furry Gaia online account. So he's another big time gamer. And apparently his I was able to acquire 5 older IP addresses associated with his 2 email addresses, which included locations in Washington, D.C., Glenmont, Maryland, and China and Canada. I don't know about that. Brian Cole was looking for pen pals before 2015. So, a loner, as they were going to find out. They've said avid gamer, more games. His mom is sounds like a pretty reckless person. DUIs, drug possession, driving on suspended, no driver's license, kind of just a long history of
known by the locals. Known by the locals, yes. Now, Dad, who's a bail bondsman, felon, possession of controlled substance, possession with intent to manufacture and distribute, Schedule 1 and 2, manufacturing controlled substance, prisoner possession of unlawful chemicals, which means when he was in prison, he got caught with drugs in there as well, and felony marijuana distribution, disorderly conduct, and then some traffic violations. And here's Brian Cole. So this is his brother, Marcus Cole, that's his brother with the felony charges. His father, basically some driving violations and, tinted windows. We call these black crimes. It's pretty normal. So I guess he just couldn't help it because he was surrounded by badness.
I don't know. Now, his dad has registered all these bail bonds addresses, more stuff here. Sometimes this stuff seems kind of boring, but you do get a little bit of revelatory stuff. Basically, it goes to support what the New York Post posted about him. Brian Cole Jr. of Virginia identified as DC pipe suspect sources. Now's where we're going to get into it being really interesting.
Okay.
I don't feel good about this particular indictment. I didn't feel any sense of relief yesterday, or like we were 1 inch closer to solving this big mystery. Okay. Didn't feel good about it at all. Here's what New York Post, as they went out and reached out to family and neighbors, had to say. The man accused of planting the pipe bombs outside the Republican and Democratic National Committees before January 6th riot is a Chihuahua-obsessed, Crocs-loving, autistic-like 30-year-old who lives with his parents, families, and neighbors, told the Post. Brian Cole was known as a recluse in his Virginia neighborhood about 20 miles outside Washington, where he was regularly seen walking his pocket-sized pup to and from the local 7-Eleven. He would wear shorts all winter long, no matter how cold it was, and he would be outside in shorts walking. He would wear red Crocs, one longtime neighbor recalled. He would always comment like, how is he in shorts? It's 20 degrees out in his red Crocs, walking his dog all winter long, the local added. We all knew him as the guy that walked the Chihuahua. Cole was arrested by the FBI. The viable explosive devices were discovered the next day as an unruly crowd of Trump supporters, footage from the pipe bomb, blah, blah, blah. Then it goes, some sources, unknown sources, told the Post that investigators were looking into his possible connection with some form of anarchist writings. Read anarchist is probably Antifa. Leanings, though specifics were not immediately known, but the family and some neighbors are convinced the FBI has the wrong man. I don't believe this at all, said Cole's distraught grandma, Loretta. He's not a terrorist. Man, it's funny. My wife said the same thing. And my mom, too. He's almost autistic-like, because he doesn't understand a lot of stuff. I hope he's not talking, she added. She said that he works at their family bail bonds company, Brian Cole Bail Bonds, which was raided by the FBI. Cole's mother is also a loving real estate agent, and he has a brother and a sister. He's very naive. He would not hurt a fly. He's just not that kind of person, Loretta insisted. Neighbors on his Woodbridge Street agree, with numerous speculating that Cole was on the spectrum and recounting that he always kept himself when he was doing the rounds with his beloved Chihuahua. He doesn't talk. He doesn't talk to anybody, one neighbor said. He's very antisocial. He keeps to himself, they added. Very introverted, very, very introverted, almost like a lone wolf. Several neighbors also felt that the stature of Cole, this is where it gets really interesting, and the suspect seen planting the bombs didn't line up at all. The guy that I know that walks the dog is pretty short and has real short legs, like uncommonly short legs, a neighbor said. Get ready to laugh, Ron. Okay. I would think that a gait analysis would be pretty easy to either rule him out or confirm it, because his legs are, I would say, uncommonly short. If I was Brian Cole's defense attorney this morning, I'd be on the phone with Blaze Media being like, get me the gait analysis. Okay? Because what they got this guy on is literally driving to 7 Home Depots and buying various parts that could be put together to be a pipe bomb. That's what they have.
Okay.
They have receipts that this guy bought end caps for pipes and wires and clips and egg timer over the course of like 7 months. That's why it was so hard to track him down, because, you know, they didn't just have one Home Depot that had all the supplies bought at one time. It was bought over time. This must have been planned out.
Yeah. Super planner.
I would think that someone said that if he is the man, they are glad to see he's no longer living next door if he was building bombs. Cole's grandma, Matter, however, is adamant that her grandson is innocent. He's just a gentle person, she said, explaining that he leaves the house for little more than groceries and has no idea why he would be in D.C. on January 5th. I don't know. He was doing DoorDash for a while, she said. He doesn't have any ties to D.C. I don't even know how they included him in this. This guy evaded capture for 5 years. Now, as a bail bondsman, I think it's his dad. There's a little confusion here because he and his dad have the same name. But on the LinkedIn, this is some of his skills: skip tracing, fraud, private investigation, security management, physical security, surveillance, surety bonds, criminal law, background checks, investigation. Let's see, asset protection, evidence, forensic analysis, access control, investigative reporting, litigation support, personal protection, risk management. Sounds like this guy actually might know a little bit. If you know how to find somebody, you can kind of reverse engineer how not to be found, right? So there's a possibility, being in the bail bonds business, this family is, you know, kind of aware of how to
disappear,
evade. You know? Hey, if you're going to build a pipe bomb, don't buy everything in one spot. It's like, yep, that's true. You probably, if you thought it through, you'd probably think that. Could express intent. It could also just be, dude was buying plumbing supplies. I don't know. I've bought all the materials to make pipe bombs 10 times over. But of course, I was in the septic business, so, you know, buying a couple pipes here and there wasn't a big deal for me. Maybe the alligator clamps for the whatever, the egg timer. Yes, Taylor shouldn't be buying egg timers. It was estimated, this comes from Kyle Seraphin, who just kind of posted this as a hilarious thing. False confessions of people with autism. It was estimated in 2012 by the U.S. Department of Justice that 30% of prisoners has a form of cognitive disability. I absolutely agree with that. 100% agree that a mass percentage of our prison population has a mental error that does not allow them to see cause and effect. I believe that wholeheartedly. I saw it in person. Some people literally cannot see the second domino falling when they push the first one over. It's like, dude, you started this. You know what I mean? Like, no, I didn't. It's like, no, you started it. You walked in my room yelling, and now you're reacting as to why there's a, all right. It has been, so it goes on here. Autism was included within the list of cognitive disabilities. However, there were no data that specifically indicated how many people within the autism spectrum are in prison system. It has been proven that people with autism are known to give false confessions, and that if law enforcement agencies should be trained on how to question a person with autism spectrum disorder. Interesting. So it kind of leads to, okay, so let's look at this. So here's a picture of him, some high school picture, whatever. Look at the legs.
Whoa.
Look at the legs. Okay. So this does have abnormally short legs. I'm just not feeling it. You know what I mean? I'm just not feeling like, it just don't feel good to me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like when I see, little Tyrannosaurus Rex here with the short legs, I'm just not feeling, I don't know, man. Like you said, you looked at this and immediately said, oh, it's a woman.
Yeah.
Also, those shoes look a little big, Crocs, man. I guess we'll find out. Again, having been through this process, I don't trust the prosecution. I'm sorry. I don't care if Kash Patel and Pam Bondi are behind it. This is a struggle that the moment your name shows up in the media, the moment you see the criminal complaint against you and you see, it's like, even if I feel like I'm pretty decent and looking in the mirror and going, am I responsible for something? Like what do I have to change before I can?
Right. Self-reflection.
I think I'm like that. I hope that I'm like that. The people in my life may or may not think that. I hope that's my attitude here. So when I'm looking at the indictment, I'm like, I didn't do some of these things. I mean, some of these things, yeah, I went to DC. Yes, I did, but this, no. How did you contrive that? Mm-hmm. Right. And then I also know they didn't interview the people I flew with. They didn't interview the people I traveled with, arranged travel with. They didn't interview any character witness. They didn't care. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is interesting. Anarchist feelings. Okay. A loner, doesn't talk to anybody, personal motivation, sued the Trump administration. Are we going with a lone wolf scenario here? Is this another one of our huge events that happen in our history that it's just some random dude that just decides to shoot JFK? Mm-hmm. Some random guy decides to shoot Martin Luther King. Mm-hmm. Some random guy decides to shoot Donald Trump, right? And then here we go. It's like, so you've had this information for 5 years. Christopher Wray says, we can't find him. Did you identify people with like earlobes and stuff? You've got cell phone data. Like you knew where this guy was. You are telling us that he was holding his cell phone.
I think they found that Mangione guy by his eyebrows.
At McDonald's.
Right.
Okay. So Daniel End Legacy Media equals Make America United Again. I don't know. He says, we arrest a patsy just long enough for Shawnee to sue Steve. Shawnee Kirkhoff is the Capitol Hill police officer that has a gate match to this young black man with short legs. Has a gate match to sue Steve. Then we let the lawsuit become bigger than the story. Then nobody ever invokes Capitol Police again. Then it's forgotten and the patsy is quietly exonerated. We closed churches and kept strip clubs open. This is easy. That's how it feels. Yeah. This feels so much like that. You know what was another situation that was like that? The 2020 stolen election. Right out of the gate. Venezuela, Dominion voting machines, mail-in ballots. No, you're crazy. Look, here's Ruby Freeman shoving ballots into machines in the middle of the night and it's from a suitcase. She sues Giuliani. We lose, Giuliani gets fired or Giuliani gets sued. Sidney Powell gets indicted. Lou Dobbs,
instead of throwing Tina Peters in jail, maybe you should listen to her for a minute.
Yeah, Lou Dobbs gets taken off the air because he mentions Dominion, Smartmatic, and Venezuela. And boop, he disappears. Right? It's like, okay. This feels like, and then the lawsuit with Ruby Freeman against Giuliani becomes bigger news than the actual stolen election and the raw allegations that he made that they wouldn't even let him prove in court that they did or didn't happen. Rudy Giuliani was all hot to trot to court because he's like, I'll prove the case. And then they're like, you can't prove the case. You can't present any of that evidence. Now, the big concern over this is I'm concerned about narrative. And I'm not concerned about narrative because I want one particular narrative over another. I ultimately want the truth. If this ended up being a MAGA supporting guy and it was dead to rights and they planted the pipe bombs, well, shame on you.
Well, yeah, right? I don't care if it's a black guy, a white guy, the white chick or whoever. Just come on.
This destroyed my life.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't say that like my life is destroyed because I'll make of it what I want to make of it. But at the same time, it's like, dude, no pipe bomb. I sit on the grass outside Capitol, outside the reflecting pool, deciding if we're going to hit the Lincoln Memorial in the afternoon. Right. Instead, pipe bomb, Congress is evacuated, electoral process stops, the crowd gets pissed off, then they start shooting tear gas at us. Right. So Christopher Wray, back when he was still the director, was asked about the pipe bomber. Why haven't you found him?
Okay. So you were able to arrest hundreds of individuals who were allowed into the Capitol, walked around, took selfies, but we can't find the individual who committed the most dangerous crime and attempted to cause multiple mass casualty events at the Capitol or around the Capitol.
Congressman, we have an entire dedicated team focused specifically on this investigation. We've done thousands of interviews, visited, again, just in the pipe bomb investigation, thousands of interviews, visited thousands of residents and businesses, reviewed millions of pieces of data. There's something like 39,000 video files. We've assessed like 500 or something tips. We've done extensive public publicity. We've increased the reward money. We've got our lab working on it. We've got our WMD directorate working on it. We've got our Office of Technology division, our cellular analysis team. So the folks that we have working on this investigation are working very aggressively on it. And I, as much as anybody, would like to see it solved.
Yeah. Okay.
We believe you.
The people who followed this story since the beginning are Revolver.news, Julie Kelly, Steve Baker got involved, and Dan Bongino. Julie Kelly, Revolver.news, and Dan Bongino have all raised a primary concern that this person walking around on January 6th in the hoodie, there's actually no video camera angle of him planting the pipe bombs. So we have no video footage that he planted the pipe bombs. So there's an outside possibility this person was randomly walking around in the middle of the night. Okay. Totally possibility. They believe that the pipe bomb was planted earlier in the morning on January 6th, not in the evening of January 5th. And they believe that the uncovery of the pipe bomb is highly suspicious. For example, the officers walking and looking straight in the bushes where the gray hooded person stopped, that they're, just the uncovering of it was highly suspicious. On top of that, these bombs that are allegedly viable, that were set 14 hours prior, allegedly, had egg timers that had 1 hour timers on it, and there's 20 minutes left. So either somebody was going over and, adding to the time every hour, or they weren't really viable, or maybe they were viable with gunpowder or whatever was inside, but they weren't really triggerable. I don't know. Right? Doesn't add up. Just doesn't add up. So this guy's been charged for basically building the bombs and bringing them to DC. I don't know that he's been charged with, well, I know he hasn't been charged with quote unquote planting the bombs. So the narrative is open that there might be something else going on January 6th, right? And Julie Kelly kind of emphasized that in some of her interviews yesterday. I don't know that that's the case. Like, it feels to me a little bit like, and this is how I felt when Julie Kelly was defending her journalism to Steve Baker and Kyle Serafim and Viva Frei over the Blaze reporting about the Capitol Hill police officer being the alleged pipe bomber. Is her whole thing was, well, it can't be him because it was done in the morning. It was that simple. So ignore all the evidence because I have reported that, it might have been in the morning because of various things. So are we trying to validate a journalist or a series of journalism, including Bongino, who's in charge of this investigation? Are they trying to validate their reporting? I don't think they would do that. But then at the same time, you got this guy, and they made a huge thing in the press briefing. We tracked him down with only the information we already had, no new tips, essentially saying the Blaze reporting had nothing to do with this. I unfortunately have to live in a world where I have to consider it could have still been Capitol Hill police involvement, and that this guy might have been simply a patsy to create the pipe bomb, right? This thought that the person who planted the pipe bomb has to have been the person who bought the materials and these are not mutually exclusive. You could have had the pipe bomb brought by a patsy that was always designed to take the fall. Now, you'd think they would have had maybe like a redneck that flies a Confederate flag built the pipe bomb.
And maybe a timer that was more than an hour.
Huh?
And maybe a timer that went for more than an hour.
More than an hour. Yeah. I mean, if they ever watched an episode of 24, make it look a little more official. So nothing about it feels right. It just, whatever. After the press conference yesterday, Kash Patel, Jeanine Shapiro, and Dan Bongino made the media rounds. This is one of Kash Patel's hits on Fox News, talking about what we're going to find out today when they actually read out the criminal complaint in court.
Trace, you're going to learn a lot more about him coming up in the next 24 hours, because what's going to happen is he's going to make his first court appearance. He's going to have to be arraigned, and he's going to have to be subjected to the formal charging process. And once that happens, we'll be able to speak more clearly to the public about what we found. But what I'll remind the audience is this suspect was just 25 years old at the time of the alleged pipe bomb incident, not an old person at all, not someone with extensive history necessarily in the criminal justice system. But I think what we'll find in the coming days, maybe even just by tomorrow, is the amount of resources that you have to put into this. Generally speaking, and not stylizing the evidence in this case, you got to go out and buy pipes. You got to go out and buy end caps. You got to go out and buy sulfur. You got to go out and buy wires. Then you got to figure out how to put that all together successfully. And remember, thankfully, these devices didn't go off, but they could have gone off. They were ready to go off. And so that was a disaster that was averted, thankfully, saving the lives of, hundreds of people around the United States Capitol. And so that's what we were able to hone in on.
I'm sorry, I'm watching the video, the walking footage in the background here.
Right.
This person doesn't have legs. This doesn't feel like disproportionate.
And so that was a disaster that was averted. Thankfully, saving the lives of hundreds of people around the United States Capitol. And so that's what we were able to hone in on as investigators and FBI agents in the field, let out on that and said, let's go figure out who's buying this stuff and how they're using it and how they're learning how to do it. And I think you're going to get a lot more information as to the how, the why.
One of the most uncomfortable things that you come to the realization of is this idea of planted evidence. In prison, you talk to some guys, and prison's a funny place because on one hand, everybody could possibly be lying to you, but on the other hand, nobody has a reason to lie to you. So it's one of the most authentic places you're ever going to be, like genuinely, like for the most part, people are, what you see is what you get. And I remember there was this one guy, he'd kind of been in and out of prison, small sentences, 18 months, 12 months for all drug possession related charges kind of throughout his whole life, right? He's kind of one of those guys. And he was wrapping up a 5-year sentence and on a little bit bigger charges. But he was telling us about this one time in St. Louis. He would go into St. Louis with crack, and he'd go driving around looking for crack whores and horrible degenerate life. But he did get sober at one point in his life, like totally sober, had gone to like a facility and really tried to restart his life. And he's out driving around and he gets pulled over by a cop in St. Louis. And the cop's like, oh, I know you, you're a crackhead, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, I'm reformed, and pulls him out of the car, puts him in cuffs. And as he's sitting back there in the, watching this officer takes a bag out of his pocket, tosses it in his back seat and goes, oh, look, I just found you in possession of crack. Right. And he's telling us, he's like, listen, you could have pulled me over on any of the years since I turned 17. I would have had crack in the car. He's like, that's the only time in my life I didn't have crack in the car. He's like, I was trying to turn over leaf and I ended up in prison. And guess what? I relapsed in prison. It's like, oh, geez. So the idea that like, oh, well, did they find the sneakers? Well, dude, you took everyone out of the house and then you guys bring the vans. You might not have brought the sneakers out of the house. You might have just found them in the house. Look at what they did in Mar-a-Lago. They literally brought stuff into Mar-a-Lago, spread papers out on the floor, put the cover sheets that they brought in, took pictures of it, and told you that was what Trump had kept, all these top secret files. They brought in the top secret files. They spread them out on the floor. How do we trust any of this stuff, especially here? Okay, you remember the Epstein case? Who prosecuted Epstein's second kid, Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter, right? Who prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell? Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter. Who prosecuted Sean Diddy Combs? Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter. Which, by the way, Sean Diddy Combs is sharing a cell with the former intelligence head of Venezuela. They're sharing a cell right now. It's kind of, small world, right?
Wow.
Okay, so knowing that, I was doing my own research yesterday and I came across this. I found this. I looked this up, right? So I sent out a post and I tagged Enrique Tarrio, leader of the Proud Boys. I said, at Noble One, any thoughts your Proud Boys, any thoughts your or the Proud Boys have on the J6 pipe? I always throw in a spelling error. Anytime I get something that gets like 8,000 views, there's always a spelling error. Any thoughts you or the Proud Boys have on the J6 pipe bombers prosecutor, Jocelyn Ballantyne? Is she a good witch or a bad witch? Because it turns out the prosecutor in this case is Assistant U.S. Attorney Jocelyn Ballantyne, noted for handling high-profile January 6 cases like the Proud Boys seditious conspiracy. So now you've got this DOJ prosecutor who absolutely maliciously prosecuted the Proud Boys, violated any semblance of an ethical obligation that a lawyer has, doing things like actually recording and using attorney-client privileged phone calls out of the jail in their motions. And when it was brought up by the defense, the judge just goes overruled. Okay? Absolute sleazebag, dirtbag prosecutor, just based on that alone. You prosecuted seditious cases, one of which for Enrique Tarrio wasn't even there. Oh, she's in charge of the pipe bomb case. Oh, great. Yeah, because they've got scruples. So Kash Patel explains to John Solomon also a little bit more about what we expect to find out.
About the defendant, because now he's in the court process and he has constitutional rights, and we're going to honor those. But we are going to deliver, as we do, a message transparency.
That's cute. I'm glad he gets constitutional rights. That's fun. I like that. That's real cute. Real cute. Go read my transcripts. Go decide about how those constitutional rights really work out, Kash.
As possible. And the affidavit does say that he bought pipes and caps and bomb making
constitutional rights. I hope you don't listen to his attorney-client phone calls.
Material and wires. And so that's a pretty good piece of information to have. The other things you need to develop are, is there a cell phone ping in the area that puts him with the phone in the location? What else can we do? Can we go out and talk to people in the community and family? All those things are ongoing. And by tomorrow, I think by the end of the day tomorrow, you're going to have a pretty powerful presentation in court by the United States Attorney. Look, this process is just not possible without DOJ and the great partners and Attorney General Bondi and Todd Blanche and U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro and her prosecutors were so aggressive on this case, and rightfully so, because the public demanded accountability for someone who tried to blow up Americans.
Amazing.
And we all suspect the FBI was involved. So it'd be really great if you could get somebody else that's not you guys. It feels that way. I did not feel a sense of relief yesterday. And I'm not in a position to be like, well, this isn't the guy, or he didn't build pipe bombs, or he's totally, I'm not that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. It feels like all those great prosecutors are making sure they stitch up the cover up.
When your agents were building a profile on who the perp likely was, does he fit the mold? Does he fit the profile?
You know, we haven't.
No, it's perfect. We always find patsies. They're a little bit on the autistic spectrum, typically loners, no friends, nobody to really vouch for them except for me, Ma, right? And a couple neighbors that watch you watching a chihuahua. No, it's perfect. No, absolutely. We assess this guy.
Entire behavioral analysis unit at the FBI that gets to work on these types of things. And what we want to ensure is there a bigger network?
Is there a confession we can get out of them?
Are there other targets? Were there other targets? Are there other unsolved crimes? Now that we have the suspect in custody, those folks can go to work on that. That stuff.
He's got long legs. It's got proportional legs. I just want to do a proportion match and be like, where's the waistline?
This takes time to develop out. The first thing we want to do is take the guy off the street and make sure he doesn't do this again. And more importantly, also hold him accountable to the innocent Americans he was threatening. So you'll hear information about his behavior, about his background. Remember, the guy was only 25 years old at the time 5 years ago. That's not an old person. That's someone who's pretty young. And America has a right to ask questions as to how he got there and why he got to this state. And we're looking to get those answers to the public, but we can't get ahead of DOJ. when they're presenting. He's still got to go for his arraignment or presentment tomorrow.
Yeah.
If he hasn't already done so.
All right. I still don't know what to think about Thomas Massey. He drives me absolutely bonkers. But at the same time, he's kind of the guy that's a voice of reason in this. And he looked at that Blaze reporting and he had other whistleblower reports and he was like all in. Right. And then he got threatened by Bongino's staff. Remember this. He got threatened by Bongino's staff where they said, if you keep looking into this, we're going to investigate one of your staff. So he said, listen, I have to say this on camera. This happened. I called Bongino, told him about it. And they said, get with the program. You better get with the program or we're going to invest. It was the direct threat.
Wow.
Articulated threat from a DOJ person. Okay. And he told Bongino, and Bongino was like, oh yeah, I'll stop that. So they have a program. They have an agenda. Get with the program. Get with the agenda. We need to offload liability from us, the government at large, possibly to include Capitol Hill Police, and put it onto something and someone else. That's what it feels like. Knowing what they did to him, knowing how they didn't respond to this Blaze reporting, and then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, we finally get a crack in the case. Which is like all of a sudden, because the spotlight went on someone and said, that's it. And nobody can really refute it except for people like Julie Kelly that were really out in the weeds based on her unsourced reporting that said that the pipe bomb was planted on January 6th and not January 5th. That was why she discredited the gate analysis. She wouldn't even look at it because she had a theory. Well, now her theory isn't proven because even this current arrest is still the alleged nighttime pipe bomber. But now she's okay because, Cash and Dan said it. So this is Thomas Massey being asked about this.
Somewhat of a distraction from what you all should be reporting on. You should be reporting on the lack of diligence for the last 5 years at the FBI on this investigation, and also a lot of the leads that they had that they let go cold and that they have ignored, and the improbable coincidence of the Capitol Police counter surveillance team that went to 2 pipe bomb locations within 15 minutes of getting out of their car that the pipe bomber had visited the night before. Chad, have you seen any press release from the FBI?
They're going to have a press conference this afternoon.
Okay, great. That's when it would be appropriate to comment.
But you don't know, but what you heard so far, you don't know if that syncs up with what they're going to say this afternoon.
What I know comes from 2 different whistleblowers.
It sounds like you're a little suspect of what they might present.
I am a suspect if it doesn't incorporate other facts that I know about. So we'll see. If it's like a single person acting singly without coordination among other people, I am very suspect. Yeah.
The Department of Justice on a schedule for the release of the files after the bill passed?
Well, they have until December 19th, which is now 15 days away, and it's a Herculean task. They have to put that stuff online. They have to redact it. They have to redact any child sexual abuse material. They have to.
So he's going on and talking about the Epstein files, but I second him. If this ends up being a lone wolf scenario, guy was just disenfranchised and he thought he'd bomb the DNC and the RNC. Opportunistic, didn't want the government to change hands or did want it to change. What's your motive? Like, what's the agenda? What's the purpose of this pipe bomb? Was it to hurt Kamala Harris, who, by the way, also mysteriously left the Senate and went down to the DNC and was on the other side of the wall as this pipe bomb was sitting there and discovered? And oh my God, right? Is that what is this just a comedy of coincidence? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it just, oh yeah, this guy brought this pipe bomb into DC and then, Mr. Short Legs grew some long legs for the night and then walked around and dropped the bomb. And then the pipe bomb squad that was sent to deploy just randomly looked in the only 2 spots that there was a pipe bomb, right? Which were separate from each other. They literally whooped through the other. Oh, and the bush where the guy bent down. Then they got real curious about the bush. Like, is something under here? Nothing feels right. But we do know one thing for sure, that the FBI of yonder years, the Ray FBI, has got some questions to answer.
And let me just say this. There's really a main headline on top of the main headline. And the real main headline here is that Christopher Wray needs to be under oath in front of somebody, because there is no way, after what we heard today, that you can say anything other than they sat on this. They didn't want this to come out. There's no way they didn't know who this was.
Yes.
But anyways, let's do the headlines. Delgado, take it away.
All right. Well, you said it, Damon. The biggest headline of the day, the accused D.C. pipe bomber now has been named. His name is Brian Cole Jr. is nabbed after the Trump administration resurrected the case that was collecting dust under Joe Biden's administration. And the aforementioned Chris Wray, that evidence, according to Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, as well as Attorney General Pam Bondi, that evidence has been sitting there collecting dust. This wasn't a new tip. This wasn't some new evidence. This was the hard work of the President Trump's administration.
And let me just say that
they'd had taken those 5,000 agents that were tracking down Grandma Mima that walked in the Capitol and they put them on this case, because they had to go through so many lines of code. Yeah, and you tell me you didn't have AI help you with it? Word break.
They got his dad's password.
yeah, exactly. You know his sex hookup site password. You know what I mean? Like, it just goes to show your life is out there. Like, you have no idea the digital exhaust you've left laying around. Right. You got some guy, OSINT, open source intelligence, going into the dark web and pulling up stuff from 10 years ago. I mean, like, look, he visited a website looking for pen pals. He was a lonely guy. Oh my gosh. It happens to be one of those pen pals was Kerry Kirkhoff from this. If I had to guess, if I had to throw out something that is probably the case, this was highly coordinated, highly orchestrated. I believe, by the way, Kerry Kirkhoff, to her attorney's credit, has now fully denied for the first time yesterday, fully denied that she's the pipe bomber. So after they arrested someone, then she's like, yeah, it wasn't me. Okay.
Good job.
I believe if this person is involved, he's the pipe bomb builder. And then he dropped it off. That's what puts him down there. And then somebody else picked it off and went moving. Because remember, he's on the phone. He's talking to people. Who's he talking to? Oh, the cell phone data is corrupted. That had to be done at a high level. And then AT&T is like, well, actually, we can recover the data. You know, so the whole narrative around this, what Julie Kelly suggested yesterday was that the FBI found the guy under Christopher Wray and then went, oh, shit, he's black. And an anarchist, Antifa. Oh, no, that's a bad narrative. Okay, throw it away. Tell CNN to report it's a white guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they're trying to push. Like, oh, look at this. You know, the former FBI, Christopher Wray, he should be indicted because he's a liar. And that's the story. Rather than, hey, your government was overthrown by inside actors from left, right, and Sunday. You know what I mean? And a handful of patriotic Americans showed up to protest a stolen election. And things got a little hot. That's the real story. Oh, man, we'll find out. I guess we'll find out. Now, this right here is, we'll finish with this as far as this topic. This is Kash Patel continuing to talk about what we're also going to be finding out in the coming weeks with regards to Arctic frost and the Russiagate investigations. To the FBI's credit, there is progress happening. Okay. As far as accountability, as far as racking up some names on the boards, getting some arrests, it's happening. So at a bare minimum, we've at least crossed off J6 pipe bomb investigation. Right. Okay. Whether we're happy with the results or not, which, listen, this could be the guy. I absolutely want to make sure that Kerry Kirkhoff doesn't sue me. Right. I don't know that it was you. I'm just reporting on public stuff. Looks awfully suspicious, but I feel ya. I also got said that I did things that I didn't do. I get it. I'm sorry. I was in the news today as well. I get it. You didn't mean to live this life. However, this other guy here, he might not have meant to live this life either. Yeah. But if you did those things, if you actually did build a pipe bomb, if you actually did take it to J6, well, welcome to the party, bro. I actually went as well, right? I wasn't just there in spirit, like so many have said. Yep, I actually showed up and went. So hats off to you for taking action, Brian Cole. But now we're going to find out what really happened. And unfortunately, I'm in the position where I just don't believe anybody. I don't believe anybody on that side of the tracks, so to speak. I've lost my ability to take them at face value. The government forevermore is guilty until they prove themselves innocent. There's FOIA requests. You must show your homework. Now, private individuals are innocent till proven guilty. I got to take them at face value. But the government, you have not yet proven yourself trustworthy in a 250-year history. Hasn't happened. Hasn't happened. So we have to just sit back and wait. But I am giving credit where credit's due. They are advancing some of these accountability things.
Where do you think the Arctic Frost story ends up when you're all done with your investigation? Are there people inside the FBI who end up either arrested or charged or punished in some way?
Well, accountability comes in multiple forms. Transparency through Congress. Right. You guys are tremendous at reporting on that. We've issued 40,000 pages to Congress this year alone.
Amazing.
Comey did 3,000 in 3 years. Ray did 13,000 in 7 years. So we are committed to transparency. But what's unique about this FBI is we are running investigations while providing what we can. So on the Arctic Frost front, we discovered that at this FBI that they were unlawfully surveilling senators and guys like me and weaponizing government. So this pipe bomb investigation should show the American public that we, while providing information on the pipe bomb over the last 8 years and protecting the integrity of our investigation, gets us to the end point we want, accountability and transparency. It takes a little time to break down the disease temple that they built here in Washington for decades, but I harp on the fact that this investigation should show the world how we are going to operate in every single investigation, Arctic Frost specifically. We have a huge investigation going. That is public. I can say that. Yeah. And it's going to take a little more time to peel it back. But no, I'm not going to let people get off the hook or get a hall pass. I don't care what position you held in the FBI. You're going to be held accountable. And this DOJ is assuredly backing us.
Okay, so I fully support Cash and Bongino and everybody in their pursuit of truth. Fully support it. Doesn't mean I'm not going to question it, right? Doesn't mean we're not going to look at it because they have to prove themselves. Mm-hmm. And, you know, just because you nailed a conviction to me doesn't mean anything, because I've been down that road myself. Okay? So I want to be able to say, yep, I support the conviction. I don't want to see Brian Cole rot in prison for 20 years as a patsy for all this. Do I believe there are patsies? Yeah. Do you know how depraved our American government is, despite what you think? Right? You know how depraved they are.
Finding out more.
Did you know there's a weekly kill list?
Are hitmen real? Yes. At the National Security Council, there is a committee that meets every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock to draw up something called the kill list. They sit around a table and they make a list of all the people that they want to kill that week. And then they take it back to the CIA, which has a dedicated unit. I won't tell you the name, but it has a dedicated unit that takes receipt of the list. They say, okay, number one. They drive to the airport, they get on the plane, they go out to that country, they kill the person, they come back, and then they go to number 2 on the list. That happens every single week. Now, we can have a conversation about whether that's right or whether it's wrong. It's certainly immoral. It's illegal, but it's been tasked by the president. At the same time, they will tell you there hasn't been another 9/11, has there? Maybe it's because we're out there killing people.
What kind of people would be on that list?
Oh, the most dangerous terrorists in the world. Or at least people that the CIA deems to be the most dangerous terrorists in the world.
And that's the key. And the CIA has a kill list, and so does the FBI, by the way. Yeah. Their kill list looks like this: character assassination, patsy setups, lone wolf actors doing the... How convenient Thomas Crooks showed up at this rally. Half of the country, the Democrats, were like, we love that man. Who hired him? Nobody. He acted on his own. How convenient. You know what I mean? Yes. Your government's that depraved. So when they say, oh, trust us, I don't know about that. Yeah. I don't know about that. I don't know if I can trust that. You get involved with politics just a little bit and you realize it is pretty dirty behind the curtain, right? When you get to, I hate to say the level that I'm at, but when you understand concepts like equity like I do, you realize, oh, we're just all pirates. And there just happens to be some stronger pirates than other. My gang is bigger than your gang. I belong to the gang of the United States of America, right? But the moment that flag goes down, you're on your own, bro. Okay, so we do live in this kind of artificial world where, yes, the CIA knocks people off who are an enemy to our gang, because that's what this is at its fundamental core. Everything that you and I grew up with, the Boy Scouts, we're supposed to be, all these altruistic ethical values, believing in American exceptionalism. Mm-hmm. That is the indoctrination that we got. That's not how the world is. It's so hard to wake up to that.
I know.
That's not how the world operates. The world operates on consent, which means if I can get away with it, I will. If I tell you it's against the law for the government to strip anybody of their civil rights and convince you enough to believe it, when I strip people of their civil rights, you won't believe that I'm capable of doing that because I've told you your whole life that I would never do that. Did you say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag this morning?
No.
Exactly. But when you're young, you do.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And a little bit of time and wisdom, you're kind of like, you know, you only have to get scammed by the, financial planner a couple times where you start going, maybe I'll take my financial matters into my own hands. You know what I mean? So, and the thing is the threats to our democracy, our republic, are legion. Here's this right here. And this didn't come out a while ago. This was added to yesterday. Mario Nawfal wrote this. He said, accused Chinese spy bragged that Hochul was much more obedient than Cuomo and texted Beijing officials. This is what foreign infiltration looks like. Bombshell evidence from the Linda Sun corruption trial reveals the accused Chinese agent texted Beijing consular officials that the, quote, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul was much more obedient than Governor Cuomo. So here is the spy that Kathy Hochul hired as her personal assistant. There's your governor of New York right now. Okay. And here's the text message exchange. Blank, have her do this. Let me know if you can open this. Wow, that's perfect. Got it. I'll send you the last final version of all the videos in early February when they're broadcasted. She had Kathy Hochul get on and go, China's amazing and you're a sister city and blah, 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 blah. Did this whole China propaganda piece. Quote, she is much more obedient than the governor. And please let me know where it will be broadcasted. Okay. This is what Chinese infiltration looks like. What was Sun delivering? She convinced Hochul to film a Lunar New Year video for the Chinese consulate, then offered to coach her on her talking points of Beijing's choosing. The video is still on the Chinese consul's YouTube webpage, with Hochul calling it a privilege to work with Ping. Sun also promised Chinese officials she would stop Cuomo from mentioning Uyghur atrocities. I will definitely not let the governor bring it up. What did Sun allegedly get in return? Millions funneled to her husband's seafood company, a Ferrari Roma, a $4 million Long Island mansion, a $2 million Hawaii home, and luxury salted ducks from the consul general's private chef. I want to eat salted ducks, she texted Ping. He sent 6. A Hochul spokesman dismissed the text as words from someone accused of lying repeatedly. But the question remains, how did an alleged Chinese agent get close enough to call the future governor obedient? Yep. New York. We're being run by narco terrorists.
It's a hell of
Chinese aides. For what? Some salted duck? You selling out our country for salted duck?
Well, and a $4 million thing and a
I know,
Jeez.
Right? So in Washington state, apparently they're going to start taxing the rich. I mean, like I said, the buses will be free and they will be paid for. It's a question of how and by who, right? So in Washington state, they got the super majority. We got some bad news.
So he does about a 55-minute press conference yesterday saying that we need to raise taxes on the rich. We got to go get the rich. We got to get the rich. We did all these big corporations. They're not paying their fair share, and the rich people, we need to take the money from the rich people.
We have a situation with many major corporations, in particular Amazon and Microsoft, which I think one of which you had mentioned, have already been shedding jobs. They didn't need tax policy to be an impetus to invest in artificial intelligence, and the goal of that technology is to divest from human labor.
Yeah, right, exactly. This is the same way they divested from human labor when it came to building cars. And what they end up doing is they actually grow the economy, because what you do is you reduce the cost of production, you reduce the cost to produce something, and then it brings prices down. The government doesn't bring prices down. Innovation brings prices down.
And the big thing was with this whole tax the rich scenario here was they consider the uber wealthy in Washington, the rich, when they're like, we got to tax Microsoft and Amazon. We got to go after these guys. Do you know what their threshold level is? 125 grand.
Jeez.
Now, for a few of our listeners sitting out in the Midwest, 125 grand is a lot of money. Around here, that you can't even buy a house with that salary.
No.
Like 4 times that salary isn't even the starter home price in this particular county. Okay. There's a lot of people that combine 2 incomes to get somewhere north of that number around here. Okay. Now, occasionally you do someone that makes more than that, but that's a surprisingly low. I shouldn't say you do have lots of people who make more than that, but our cost of living is so high, right? That number is not really rich.
No.
That's like me going out to Iowa and being like, anybody who makes over 65 grand, You're 1%ers.
It's like nearly median income in a lot of
nearly a median
counties.
income around here. Yeah. And also, if you're married filing jointly, there you go. That's who they're going to come after. Basically, they're coming after the middle class. Clearly, they're coming after the middle class. CNN has continued their reporting on this, Pete Hegseth ordering the double tap on the narco terrorists. Pop, pop. And it's fascinating to see the different politicians line up around this story. You have some Republicans, Rand Paul, you shouldn't be shooting unarmed people. Drugs are drugs. Unless they're shooting bombs at us. It's like it doesn't matter, right? It's like, oh, you can't shoot enemies. No, we're at war with these people. They've killed 1 million people in the last decade. That was one of the things that was articulated by Stephen Miller. He's like, by any metric, if another foreign nation sent over mustard gas that killed 10 million people, or maybe that hot air balloon, if it was dropping, radiation poisoning and killing 100,000 people a year, it's an open act of war. Well, guess what? These drugs was an open act of war, but it was subversive. Why? Because you have a lot of politicians snorting cocaine in the back room that don't want to actually go after their drug dealers. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the truth of the matter. Go listen to Madison Cawthorn talk about drug use in Congress. It's stunning. We are being legislated for, and our lives are being managed by genuinely horrible people in many occasions. There are some good ones, but on a whole, a lot of these people, at a bare minimum, they've lost their morals and their scruples, and many of them, I think, have compromised their souls. This is CNN now. So CBS broke the story about the double tap. Pentagon did an IG investigation, came out and said, not only did Hegseth not order the double tap, it was an admiral that did. And we had JAG attorneys advising him, and they made a radio call, which we intercepted, asking for more help, which meant they're still in the fight and the drugs were still afloat. Pop, pop, pop. We're done. Okay. So CBS broke the reporting that, hey, this is a nothing burger. But then CNN jumped on, because now CNN's like, well, we have to continue the story. This is exactly like the Ukraine gate scenario. There was a long running coup against Trump called Russiagate. Russia. Eventually, Trump didn't back down. He didn't bend. He didn't break. He forced the Mueller investigation to its full conclusion. Bill Barr said, write a report. They got a report. And guess what? No evidence of collusion. A couple evidences of attempted obstruction of the investigation into the non-issue of non-collusion, right? Sure. They were saying, well, you kept us from getting the evidence of your collusion that we never found or even thought existed, right? Massive fishing expedition. As soon as Mueller testified, and also we found out that he already had dementia and couldn't answer questions, probably had never read his own report. I don't know if anybody remembers that. It was a tragedy. A tragedy. You've got a guy that can't hardly remember his name that's in charge of the biggest investigation in United States history. It's a tragedy. Okay. So he gets up and that goes just, it's over. Russia's not a crime. Trump's come out the double doors in the White House. The sun's behind him. It looks like he's God's gift to earth. We beat him, right? And he's like, okay, let's get on to governing. And a week later, oh my gosh, he had a call with Ukraine and he asked for quid pro quo. And we've got to impeach him. And they impaneled the jury, the impeachment judiciary, in the House. And Schiff gets up there and says, oh, look, he reads a transcript where Trump asked for quid pro quo. And he said, was it 7 times? And as he's doing this, Trump releases the actual phone call, which Vindman and his acolytes tried to take so that Trump couldn't release it. But they grabbed it first, released it. And that phone call was nothing like what Adam Schiff was quoting up on the diocese.
The script.
Okay. So fortunately, enough Republicans decided they didn't want to put their name on the fraud that Trump wasn't impeached. But it was a fake story. It was debunked, but they kept running with it. Well, here we have a fake story. They tried it with Signalgate. Signalgate went flop. They tried it, and now they're trying it with this, and it went flop. But that doesn't matter. I promise you right now, they're trying to impeach Hegseth and many other of Trump's cabinet members, and then they're going to get Trump. They're going to keep running with the story. How do I know this? Because CNN now has more sources.
Brass was taking questions behind closed doors from lawmakers, but CNN has exclusive reporting tonight from sources with direct knowledge of those briefings that the admiral told them that the 2 survivors in the water did not appear to have radio or other communications devices. That matters because defense officials that we've been hearing from have been quietly arguing that the survivors were legitimate targets because they appeared to be radioing for help or backup reinforcements that could theoretically allow them to have continued to traffic the drugs that were on board that boat. However, despite that, and according to our new reporting here at CNN Tonight from my colleagues, Admiral Bradley today acknowledged that those 2 survivors were in no position to make a distress call. Brad.
Oh, okay. So you've got sources reporting that contradict the IG report. So, hey, Ron, we're in good company. CNN and us both don't trust the government.
Okay.
Hey, can we have our cake and eat it too, please? Do you see? They're trying to continue the narrative. Oh, some anonymous sources. So now they're going to drag up the IG and he's going to say his thing. They'll drag up some general that hates Trump and he's going to be like, oh, I mean, I don't know if they really had a radio interception. Then they'll drag up some signal officer and he'll be like, no, we did intercept a radio communication. You know, it's just going to be a big old cluster. Boop. It's going to be rough. So they're running with that story. To me, it seems like a nothing burger. Kill the drug dealers. I don't see the problem. You got a hit list. Why don't you just quietly put them on the hit list? Why'd you have to tell us about it at all? Just go about your business. I mean, you've been doing this long enough. Like, why do we have to be involved? What do you think about it all, Ron?
Man, I don't think you want to know what I think about it all. I'm so tired. So tired of living in this state, living in this country under what just feels like I can't right now.
I look at this like I personally like to see it with clear eyes. I want to know what it is.
I know, but we keep getting obfuscated from the truth. And, you know, when Kash Patel with his bug eyes gets up there and starts telling half truths, I start to lose faith. And I'm just not feeling it with him, Bongino, and I'm still feeling it with Trump.
Yeah,
for some reason.
I think Trump's got the Kavorka. I mean, he's got the thing.
But right? Everybody around him is just like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, Peter Ticklin was on with Altman yesterday. I listened to his whole interview, and he's basically like, Trump knows everything. He knows everything with Dominion. He knows about corruption inside of the government, but he's the smartest man he's ever met. He's makes very strategic decisions, and Ticklin's like, I trust him.
Right. And the moves that keep being made are, you know, making me feel like, oh, this is, you know, things are happening the way that they should be. And then when these guys get up and start talking, it's like, what the heck, man?
Yeah. And obstructing.
And it looks like, and it makes me feel like, okay, great. Are we just in the next phase of we're just the new dummies in America that are lapping it up?
It's been such a this is government. Mm-hmm. When I was in college, I felt like I was black-pilled. Mm-hmm. I felt like, oh my gosh, you know, everything's a war for oil. It's all about the money. Mm-hmm. And I just was like, I can't do this. I got to go make my own way. Best thing I ever did, because I didn't become entangled with the government any more than a normal peasant does, just with normal regulations and business stuff. Right. But I got to see it. And I was like, I don't want to participate in that. And that's all I'm saying here. Listen, we have to live here, right? So I want policies and things like that make life good for me, but I don't think anybody owes me anything. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want to see from my government. And when I see them doing other things, I'm like, okay, well, I have to then enforce my birthright as an American and choose not to participate. And that's where we get hung up. I want our listeners and I want people to understand, listen, you have a vested interest here in the country, not the nation. The country is the land and her people. It is literally your neighborhood. And it extends from you outward. We have a beautiful country. There are beautiful people that live here. And the best thing about this country is you're born free, but then you're quickly enslaved through a series of obligations and agreements that get made on your behalf with the political association called the nation. Mm-hmm. Those are voluntary agreements. It's written in the law that way. But when we get caught up and we don't recognize our own authority in this, we start to neglect things. We don't attend our city council meetings. We don't attend our different stuff that's going on. You know, we're here in Kitsap County and I'm dealing with the local GOP, and there's a handful of very strategic commissioner meetings that are coming up in the next few days. They're really important, like major decisions that are going to affect land use and stuff like that. They hold these meetings in the middle of the day. So most people are at work. Now, the local county commissioners, we know this because we know we have one of them on the board, says, well, we all talk amongst ourselves that one person who shows up is equivalent to 10,000 people in our county. So if one person shows up to make a complaint, they equate that to 10,000 people. The left figured this out long ago, and they started sending their Karens into the school boards and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? But yet we don't, because we're just like, well, somebody else will take care of it, right? I mean, if I was in a position of authority, I would. But yet we never run. We never participate. We never engage in how the sausage is made. And then we bitch that it's flavored the way we don't like it. That's why, coming back from prison, I've dedicated myself to get involved. Because if you're not in the arena, you don't get to play. I mean, how dare I just show up on January 6th at the federal Capitol when I never showed up at my commissioner meeting? How dare I do that?
Solid point.
You know what I mean? And so that's how I feel like people have got to get involved. You've got to get involved. You know, there's a county in Texas that's decided they're doing paper ballots. That's awesome, because without the paper ballots, we're probably going to lose this whole thing. Remember, Sidney Powell, who many people have discredited, oh, she went out on a limb. No, she didn't.
I can hardly wait to put forth all the evidence we have collected on Dominion, starting with the fact it was created to produce altered voting results in Venezuela for Hugo Chavez, and then shipped internationally to manipulate votes for purchase in other countries, including this one. It was funded by money from Venezuela and Cuba, and China has a role in it also. We have staggering statistical evidence. We have staggering testimony from witnesses, including one who was personally in briefings when all of this was discussed and planned, beginning with Hugo Chavez and how it was designed there, and then saw it happening in this country. As soon as the state shut down on election night and stopped counting, those are the states where the most egregious problems occurred. We also need to look at, and we're beginning to collect evidence on the financial interests of some of the governors and secretaries of state who actually bought into the Dominion systems to line their own pockets by getting a voting machine in that would either make sure their election was successful or they got money for their family from it. Well, for fraud this serious, I think even if the states are stupid enough to go ahead and certify the votes where we know the machines were operating and producing altered election results, then they will be set aside by the fraud also. I mean, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of votes. President Trump won this election in a landslide.
They have private polling that shows the support for President Trump is somewhere in the 70 to 80% range. But the apathy in our voting systems is 60 to 70%. It's huge. It's huge. People don't trust the voting systems. They haven't trusted them for years. But now it's not just a general distrust. It's like, no, there's fraud. Plain as day. That was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, Sidney Powell was saying that. What's changed? Did Venezuela uninvolve themselves in our
nothing's
elections?
Changed.
You know, did the whistleblowers disappear? No. In fact, we have an even better testimony from one of them that's now been published and you know, circulated. It was published in a Dallas newspaper, by the way, is where, you know, so that's the official. This came from that guy. They did their source checking.
And this topic is exactly why Tina Peters is still in jail.
This is why she's still in jail. Exactly. There was a huge steal in 2020, and they won. They got power. They sent guys like me to prison. They persecuted people like her. They took Lou Dobbs off TV. I'm sure there's people we will find out in the future that were on that kill list, and we're not hearing their voices today. Right? They tried to lace people up with lawfare. It's almost better to smear a person and destroy their reputation than it is to kill them. If Sidney Powell had died after this interview, she'd be a martyr. But instead, she became, oh, well, didn't she get, didn't she plead to a misdemeanor? Didn't she do that? Yeah, she pled to a misdemeanor in her apology letter, which she was required by the judgment to write to the state of Georgia, said, I'm sorry for exposing your elections are stolen. Sincerely, Sidney Powell. That was her apology letter to the state of Georgia, right? We have to be diligent. We have to be involved. We have to do our peasant thing and raise our pitchforks politely and kindly. All right, it's time for us to jump over to the private. Thank you guys for sticking around. And I know this episode today, it may have been heavy for some of you. It doesn't really matter. Life is going to go on. Sun's going to rise. Sun's going to set. Today, it's a nice wet day in the Pacific Northwest. Live your life, right? But don't entangle yourself with these people. It's not worth it. It's a zero-sum game. Okay. See you guys tomorrow. The rest of you, we'll see you in private.